This is the notes for Unit 1, word problems. We're going to start with a family of 5 is going to the state fair. It costs $11 per person for admission and $4.50 per person for corn dog. So if I have the total costs for all members of the family for admission and corn dogs, well, there are 5 people total, and it's $11 to get in, and then it's $4.50 for a corn dog. We're assuming each person is going to buy a corn dog here. Okay, so I'm going to take $11 times 5 and $4.50 times 5. Or I could add them together and find the cost for the admission and the corn dogs before taking it times 5. So either way you want to do it is fine. I'll go ahead and jot down both, and you only need to copy the one that you prefer. Okay, so if I was going to do them separately, I would take 11 times 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. If I take $4.50 times 5, I do not line up that decimal place. My times 5 is just the whole number, and at the end, we'll move him 2 places. So 5 times 0, 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22. So 1, 2, 1, 2 places. So 4 times 5 is 20. So reasonably, $4.50 times 5 should be $22.50. I have seen some kids before write 11 plus 11 plus 11 and write it out 5 times. If you multiply it though, it'll save you a little step there. So then the total cost, 55 plus $22.50, now is where I would have to line up my zeros. So it's 55 to get in, $22.50 for their corn dogs, for a total of $77.50. Okay. Same thing if I added them together first. So 11 plus $4.50. When I add, that's where I have to line up my decimal places. So if it was $15.50 for the admission and corn dog for each person, if I take $15.50 times 5, 5 times 0, 5 times 5, 25. 25 plus 2 this time, and then 5 plus 2 more is 7. So notice either way, I'm going to get $77.50. You only have to write down one. So whichever way makes the most sense to you as far as solving it, you can choose if you want to times them separately or add them and do one multiplication. As far as writing the number sentence though, I have to have both. Okay, so the first way I wrote it was when I times them separately. So $11 times 5. And then $4.50 times 5. And then I added them together. The other way, if you would like to add first, well now this goes out of the order of operations. I'm not following order of operations if I just add first. So I would have to have parentheses to still follow order of operations. So in my parentheses, I would have 11 plus the $4.50. And then when you say times 5, usually the number goes out in front. So a number and a letter side by side mean multiply. Same thing here. With your number outside the parentheses, it means multiply. And usually just put that number first. Okay, so 2 ways you can think about it. Times them both separately. Or if you would like to add them, and say it's a shortcut $15.50 per person before you multiply, it'll save you a step up here, but that does require parentheses. Okay. The fancy word we're going to introduce today, go ahead and make a note here to the side, is distribute. Okay. What that means is if there's a number outside your parentheses, you take it times everything that's on the inside. So you're going to see this a lot in the equations next unit, and in all my answer keys, I just draw little arrows. So what that means is when there's parentheses, I take 5 times 11 and 5 times $4.50, and it'll give you this equation that we wrote up top. We'll look at another example here at number 3. Right now I'm just kind of starting to introduce you to the idea of distribute. Anything outside the parentheses, you multiply times everything inside. All right, let's take a break from that problem. We'll try a different one, and then we'll come back to a similar one there at number 3. So on number 2, the table below gives the wind chill temperatures for a wintry week in Ankeny. On Monday, it was -10, Tuesday, -12, and then 4, 1, but back to -3 on Friday. So if we start with the mean, right here it says the mean is the sum of the values divided by how many there are. So the sum of the values means I need to add. Right now, I have a +4 and a +1. But then I had a -10, a -12, and a -3. Okay, so for these types of problems, if I am adding all these together, the order does not matter. Usually I rearrange them so the positive numbers come first. Okay, so in my table, I would have a positive of 5 degrees, and I would have 10, 12, and 3, so 22 plus 3, 25 negatives. So to save yourself the headache from trying to go up and then down and then up and down and counting back and forth on your number line, I usually find it easier to put the positives together and then put my negatives together in a separate number. So then I really just have one operation where I have to be careful about the sign. So if I have 5 positives and 25 negatives, my answer then would be 20 in the whole, which makes sense because these couple days were a lot colder. So my total is -20, but don't forget the step. I need to divide by how many values? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -20 divided by 5. My final answer is -4. -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So again, the mean is the sum, meaning I add them all up, and then I divide by how many days there were. I want to find the average temperature, so -20 is not realistic when not a single number up here was actually -20. The average we say is -4. So Monday and Tuesday, it was below that. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it was slightly above that. So the average is -4 when you divide it by the 5 total. Okay. The other one says the range of the temperatures given. Well, in our definition, it says the range is the difference between the highest and lowest. Difference means subtract. So my highest number on the list was 4, and my lowest number on the list was -12. Okay, when I'm trying to find the difference, I subtract them. And if I subtract a negative, I'm going to add them, removing that negative, taking away a bag of sand, doing the opposite of the negative. All of those lines of thinking move you up on your number line. I was at 4, I took away my negatives, so that brought me up to 16. Okay. You could also think of a number line. I'll just sketch one over here quick. Feel free if you want to draw this, but you don't have to. So here would be 4, here's 0, and then -12 would be all the way down here on the side. Okay, so the range is between the high to the low. Well, if I'm going from -12, I would have to go through 0 in order to get to 4. So please don't say the answer is 8 because you did 12 minus 4. I had to go from -12 to 0 all the way up to 4, so the difference should be 16. All right, let's try one more. Slide it down so you can still see 2 there. 3 friends are going bowling. Go and circle them like last time. So 3 friends, it costs $4.25 per person for the game, and then $2.50 for the shoes. So if I want to find the total cost for the game and the shoes, one option is to take $4.25 times 3 people, and then $2.50 times my 3 friends, and go ahead and add them together. Or, remember, I can add them together first and find out how much for the game and the shoes together before I then take it times 3. So just like last time, it's your choice. You don't have to write both. It's just whichever one makes more sense to you. If you had tried to multiply first, 15, 6 plus 1, 7, 4 plus 3 is 12. So $12.75 for the games. 3 times 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 2, 6. So 750. 1275 and 750. Line up those decimals in order to add them. 5. 12. Carry the 1. 3 plus 7 is 10. $20.25. Okay. Same thing over here. So 5, 7, 6. If it's $6.75 per person, and I have 3 people going, 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 1, so 22. And then 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20. Either way, I'll get the same answer, $20.25. So whichever one made more sense to you, go ahead and ignore the one or the other. You only have to write one way of how you solved it, but I do have to know both my number sentences. It does not matter which one you put in which blank for B and C. The order doesn't matter. So this time I'm going to actually start with that one that had the parentheses. In order to add first, 425 plus 250, I had a game and a shoes times my 3 people. It would look like that. Okay. So again, if I want to add, I need parentheses. Order of operations would multiply these if I didn't. Okay. So then here's our new word for the day. Distribute, as I write it out. The distributive property says I multiply everything inside the parentheses by what's on the outside. So I have 3 groups of games, and I have 3 groups of shoes. So I take 3 times 425 and 3 times 250. Notice that's exactly the thinking right here. So both of these get you the same answer. Our new vocabulary word for the day is distribute. If I have groups of something, however many are in that group, I multiply by each thing that I'm getting. Okay, so like my admission and then the corn dogs, or the game and then the shoes. Each person does do both things. So when I distribute, you just multiply to both.